I'm not good at telling stories, but I gotta get this out. My name's, well, doesn't matter, I guess. I was on this cruise, right? Out of Miami, Florida, headed for the Bahamas. Me and my buddy Elias, we saved up for months. Supposed to be a chill week. Sun, drinks, maybe some dancing. Ship was huge, called Starlight Serenity. Felt like a floating city. But, man, it went so wrong. It was day 3 when the captain's voice crackled over the speakers. Tropical storms coming, folks. Category 3. Stay calm. Head to interior cabins or the Grand Lounge. I remember Elias rolling his eyes, saying, "Great, stuck inside with a bunch of sweaty strangers." We grabbed our stuff and shuffled to the lounge. The air was thick, smelled like old carpet and cheap cologne. People were nervous, whispering, checking their phones. My phone had no bars. Figured it was the storm messing with the signal. I used to work on a fishing boat out of Charleston, South Carolina, so I know a bit about navigation. Something felt weird. The ship was rocking, sure, but the way it leaned, the hum of the engines, it didn't feel like we were turning away from the storm. I checked my phone's GPS app, just a habit from my boating days. It showed us heading northeast, straight into the hurricane's path. I nudged Elias. "This ain't right, man. We should be going south." He laughed it off. "You're paranoid. Crew knows what they're doing." But I couldn't shake it. I kept checking the GPS. We were moving deeper into the Atlantic, not toward any safe port. I overheard a crew member, some guy named Tariq, telling folks we were almost clear of the storm. Bullshit. The winds were screaming outside, and the ship groaned like it was gonna snap. I slipped away, found a stairwell to the lower decks. My hands were shaking. Stupid, but I felt watched. Down there, it was all flickering lights and rusty pipes. I saw this outline of someone at the end of a hall, just standing there. Didn't move. I froze, heart pounding. Then they were gone. Probably a crew member, right? But it creeped me out. I found a maintenance room, door half open. Inside, I saw charts and screens, navigation stuff. The GPS system was glitching, numbers jumping like crazy. A logbook mentioned cost-saving repairs and delayed upgrades. My gut sank. They'd cheaped out on the nav systems. We were sailing blind. I heard footsteps and bolted back upstairs. Back in the lounge, Elias was arguing with Tariq. "Why's the ship shaking so bad? You said we're safe." Tariq mumbled something about turbulence and scurried off. Then the lights flickered. A woman screamed as water seeped through the floor. Not much, but enough to make people panic. I checked my phone again. GPS showed us 300 miles off course, way out in the ocean. No way rescue could find us. Elias and I ran to check the life rafts. Most wouldn't inflate. Rusted valves, torn fabric. The emergency beacons, dead. No signal, no nothing. People were yelling, crying. A lady named Marisol, who kept talking about her creaky porch back in Savannah, was clutching her kid, whispering prayers. I wanted to scream, "They lied to us!" The crew knew we were screwed, but kept acting like everything was fine. The ship tilted hard. Glass shattered. Water was rushing in now. I don't know how we got out. Me and Elias clung to some debris, got picked up by a Coast Guard chopper days later. They said we were nowhere near where the ship reported. Most folks didn't make it. I still hear the ship's groans in my dreams. And that figure in the hall, I swear it wasn't human. I don't talk about it much. People think I'm nuts, but I know what I saw. And I know we were left to die out there. My name's Cassidy, and I work as a nurse in Phoenix. My sister Brianna convinced me to go on this cruise with her family. 7 days in the Caribbean on the Carnival Paradise. I wasn't really excited about it, honestly. I hate being stuck on boats, but she kept saying I needed a vacation. The first 2 days were fine, normal cruise stuff. Brianna's kids loved the pool. My brother-in-law Marcus was hitting the buffet every hour. I mostly just read books and tried to relax. Then Wednesday morning happened. I woke up around 6 a.m. to someone puking violently in the hallway. Like, really violent. At first I thought maybe someone had too much to drink, you know? But then I heard another person throwing up from the room next door, and another one down the hall. By breakfast time, the main dining room was practically empty. The few people who showed up looked pale and shaky. Brianna came knocking on my door around 9, holding her stomach. "Cass, I think I ate something bad," she said. Her face was green. Within an hour, she was throwing up every 10 minutes. Marcus got hit next, then the kids. I felt fine though. Weird thing was, I had eaten at that fancy steakhouse the night before instead of the buffet. Cost me an extra $40, but damn, I'm glad I did. By noon, people were collapsing in the hallways. The medical center had a line stretching around the deck. I offered to help since I'm a nurse, and what I saw inside, shit. It was like a war zone. People were having seizures. Kids were crying for their parents. The ship's doctor looked overwhelmed and scared. "How many cases?" I asked him. "Over 800, he whispered, "and counting." That's when I started noticing things. The crew members walking around looked perfectly healthy. They were eating different food from separate areas I'd never seen before. When I asked one of them about it, he just shrugged and walked away real quick. I started asking around. Everyone who got sick had eaten in the main dining rooms or buffets. But people like me who paid extra for specialty restaurants, we were fine. All of us. Thursday morning, I was helping clean up the medical bay when I overheard a radio conversation. The captain was talking to someone on shore. "No, we cannot return to port early," he said. "Corporate says we continue the route as planned. Keep the sick passengers in their rooms. Tell them it's quarantine protocol." I felt cold. They were locking people in their cabins, sick people who needed real medical help. I managed to sneak into the crew kitchen that night. The smell hit me first. Rotten meat, spoiled vegetables, food that should have been thrown out weeks ago. But right next to it was fresh food, labeled for crew and specialty restaurants only. They were poisoning us. The cruise line was serving expired food to regular passengers to save money while giving fresh food to crew and people who paid extra. When people got sick, they just covered it up. I tried to tell other passengers, but security started following me around. They moved me to a different room and told me to stay quiet for everyone's safety. We finally docked in Miami 5 days later. Ambulances were waiting, but only a few. Most passengers were told they had mild stomach bugs and sent home. I still have nightmares about those hallways. The sound of people getting sick everywhere, kids crying, and knowing that some company executive decided our lives weren't worth the cost of fresh food. I'll never go on another cruise. Ever. This happened 2 years ago when I was working maintenance on the Caribbean Princess. We were sailing from Miami to Nassau. Nothing special, really. Just another week-long cruise with about 3,000 passengers. I'm Dexter, by the way. Been working ships for maybe 6 years now. Started right after high school in Phoenix. My mom always said I should have gone to college instead, but whatever. So anyway, the storm hit us on day 3. I remember because I was supposed to call my girlfriend Maxine that night, but the Wi-Fi went down. The waves were getting pretty bad, maybe 15 feet or so. Nothing we hadn't handled before, though. I was in the crew mess eating this terrible tuna sandwich when the alarms started going off. Emergency bells everywhere. Then Captain Morrison's voice came over the intercom, telling everyone to stay calm. You know how it is. When they say stay calm, that's when you start worrying. Me and 3 other guys, Carlos, Jimmy, and this new kid named Brett, we got called down to the engine room. Water was leaking through some crack in the hull. Not a huge deal normally, but the pumps weren't keeping up. The ship was starting to lean to one side. That's when everything went to shit. This massive pipe burst. I'm talking like a fire hydrant explosion. Water everywhere, steam, metal screeching. The whole room filled up with this thick fog. I couldn't see anything for maybe 30 seconds. When it cleared up, Carlos and Jimmy were trapped behind this twisted mess of pipes and metal. The explosion had basically created a cage around them. Brett was unconscious near the door, bleeding from his head. The water was rising fast in their section, maybe ankle deep when we first saw them, but climbing every minute. Carlos was screaming at us to get them out. Jimmy was just quiet, staring at the water. We tried everything, crowbars, cutting tools, even called the welding team. But every time we got close, these toxic fumes would come pouring out. Made you dizzy immediately. Plus, the captain kept yelling over the radio about explosion risks. The worst part was listening to them on the radio. See, they had their walkie-talkies, so everyone on the ship could hear their voices through the speakers. Passengers in the dining halls, kids in the game rooms, everyone. Carlos started begging us to try harder. Water was up to his knees by then. Jimmy was crying, talking to his wife back in Tampa like she could hear him somehow. Then the power went out completely. Ship went dark except for emergency lights. We were just floating out there in the middle of nowhere. No engines, no nothing. Captain Morrison made the call nobody wanted to hear. They had to seal that section to save the ship, close the emergency doors permanently, leave Carlos and Jimmy behind. I'll never forget Jimmy's last words over the radio. He said, "Tell my kids I love them," and then just silence. The communication got cut off right after that. We made it back to Miami 3 days later on backup power. Coast Guard met us at the dock. Whole thing got covered up pretty quick. Company paid the families, made everyone sign papers. I still work ships, but I don't know. Sometimes when I'm alone in the engine rooms late at night, I swear I can hear Carlos calling for help. Probably just the pipes settling or something. But I never go down there without someone else anymore. Never.